Police in Haiti now say they've arrested 4 more suspects in the assassination of President Jovenel Moise. And that brings the total to 6 suspects detained and 7 killed. But investigators are still looking for more of those responsible, as Haiti's First Lady is now recovering in a Miami hospital. Marcus Moore is there in Miami with the latest. Marcus, what do we know about these suspects so far?
Well, Diane, good afternoon. We have learned from the Minister of Elections in Haiti that an American citizen with ties to Haiti is among the 6 who were taken into custody in connection with the assassination that happened on Wednesday, the assassination of the president and the wounding of the First Lady. Those are the only details we know at this point of that American citizen who's been identified as James Solage. As for the others, we, of course, have heard reports of various nationalities, but no other descriptors of the suspects, nor any details, Diane, of what their roles may have allegedly were in the assassination this week.
And Marcus, it appears to be a fluid situation in that country, but do we know what the next day or two will look like in Haiti?
Well, Kenneth, I mean, as you know, Haiti has already been a very volatile place just in the past few months, with a lot of political turmoil as well as street violence that has taken hold in the country. And right now, Haiti is pretty much on lockdown. There's martial law there. The international airport has been shut down. People are largely staying in their homes off of the streets of Port-au-Prince, which is usually a very busy place, all in response to what happened this week. But there have been reports that people have been surrounding one of the police stations where the suspects, some of them have been held. So we've seen that. But in the coming days, what we can expect is that this investigation will continue to unfold. There are still a lot of details about how this group managed to successfully get to the president's home and commit this act. And then, of course, the question why. But beyond that will be, when will the border reopen? Because there are people who live in Haiti and they work in the Dominican Republic who have not been able to go back across the border, who need to support their families. And then there are goods that need to get into the country as well. So we can expect those issues and those elements to develop as the days go forward.
Again, in this assassination of President Jovenel Moise, his wife was injured during that attack as well. Do we know how the First Lady is doing, Marcus?
Kenneth, no official word from the hospital. All we know is that she was in stable condition, and when she was brought to the hospital yesterday, flown in on a private jet and then taken to Jackson Memorial here in Miami. And while she was stable, we were told that she still had critical injuries. That is the latest word we have. We just reached out to the hospital again this afternoon, and they had no comment on her condition, but certainly a lot of prayers for the First Lady as she recovers here in the U.S.
Definitely. All right, Marcus Moore there on the ground in Miami. Thank you, sir.
Meanwhile, the U.S. is vowing to work with the government of Haiti to support the Haitian people after U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken spoke to Haiti's acting prime minister by phone. Now some in Congress say the U.S. needs a new policy toward Haiti. Democratic Congressman Andy Levin, co-chair of the House Haiti Caucus, is here with more on that. Congressman, thanks so much for being here. I know you've written that it's absurd that Prime Minister Claude Joseph says the military and security forces in Haiti have the situation under control there now. Why do you find that so hard to believe?
Well, look what just happened. I mean, they had this brazen assassination of president. That's the first time that's happened, I believe, in 100 years. And more broadly, the reign of impunity in Haiti, the kidnappings, the massacres. There have been upwards of 200 to 300 people killed just this year, 400 to 500 in the last 3 years. And it's the worst security crisis Haiti's faced in a long time. So it's a very dire situation. As you mentioned, the prime minister is just an acting prime minister. The president had actually replaced him before he was assassinated. So the new prime minister, Ariel Henry, says he's really the prime minister. And Claude Joseph, who was only the acting prime minister, says he's the prime minister. And they are the 6th and 7th prime ministers that this president, Jovenel Moise had appointed. There's no parliament. There's the head of the Supreme Court died of COVID recently. So it's really an unprecedented situation. And as you mentioned, it points out that it's time for the U.S. not to just sort of try to prop up whoever happens to be there claiming power, but to actually work with Haitian civil society, with the Catholic Church, the Protestant churches, the bar associations, the human rights groups, the business community, to really create an interim government that can build a path to restore democracy in Haiti.
So as you point out, Haiti was already in the midst of a constitutional crisis when this assassination happened. You've said that the international community, including the U.S., failed to heed calls from the Haitian people to support a Haitian-led democratic transition. So how do you think the U.S. failed here, and what kind of changes are you pushing for specifically?
Well, the United States continued to say that Jovenel Moise had another year of his term when that was broadly not accepted by the Haitian legal community, human rights community, political opposition, almost really nobody in Haiti besides the president himself. And, let's remember that only 10% of Haitians even participated in the election that he won. So he really never had a proper mandate. And it's time for us to really see the whole Haitian people, to not just work with the tiny elite in Pétionville and the French-speaking elite, but really work with the breadth of Haitian civil society to say, we want to support you in having a Haitian design and Haitian-led transition back to democracy. I think that's what we need to do.
And you talked a lot about security. I know you wrote legislation barring U.S. military assistance to the Haitian armed forces, citing their leadership's human rights records. But the Haitian ambassador to the U.S. said it's because those forces don't have international support that this assassination and attacks like it were possible. So what's your take on that? How do we help Haiti become more safe and secure?
Yes, well, we've long supported the Haitian National Police, and we should do that. But recreating a Haitian army, which is literally led by human rights abusers from earlier eras, is not the answer. Whoever assassinated the president, if they were foreigners, that is obviously an outrageous thing and a huge problem. But let's be honest, Diane, there are gangs that were tied to the president who run rampant. They parade around in the streets with complete impunity, even after everyone knows they've committed horrifying massacres. So you can't have elections under those circumstances. We need to work together to help the Haitian people have a secure situation again and rebuild democracy. The one thing I have huge confidence in is the Haitian people themselves. They want democracy. You know, Diane, in 1997, I went to Haiti when people, for the first time, tried to have a presidential election. And we all came under, at this polling place I was at on the outskirts of Port-au-Prince, gunfire from people trying to disrupt the election. And I saw people run away screaming. Obviously, they were being shot at. Within 15 minutes, the line reformed. And an old woman said to me, I was an observer, right? So I said, oh my gosh, get back out there and observe. And I asked her in Creole, why did you come back? They were shooting at you. And she said, I never had a chance to vote before. I'm going to be the person who chooses the government of my country. And that spirit runs throughout the Haitian people. I know it's there. We just need to help them find the conditions where they can rebuild democracy. And it's not about having an election ASAP because elections are part of democracy. We have to have the basic conditions in place, and we have to support the Haitian people in building those conditions. Congress is going to be there to play our role.
All right, Congressman Andy Levin, we appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Diane. Take care.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.